Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joseph Parker, Derek Chisora squaring off for a rematch on December 18 in Manchester. So it's fight week and we've got Joseph Parker saying that he needs to take care of business. And we've seen this, heard this before, so we'll get to his statements and then a few thoughts, because certainly Joseph Parker is due a good performance. And actually someone was asking me the other day, well, what's really special about Joseph Parker? They thought that he hadn't looked good in recent years. And I had to sort of agree that he hasn't put on any really sort of spectacular performances, and something that will catch our eye and go, yeah, this guy is sort of due for a title shot and might have a good chance. There seems to be, it feels like a broken record sort of cycle with Joseph Parker. We hear all these things, and be it with he was with Kevin Barry and now with Andy Lee, what I've been working on camp, what I can do, what I will show you. Ultimately for fans to largely be disappointed and go, well, we didn't really sort of see much of what you were talking about. But he sort of seems to be a guy at the world level, at least, that's just ground his way through performances. I don't think I've seen a Joseph Parker performance at world level where I've gone, wow, he just dominated that guy. And I'm not talking about tune-ups against like Alexander Flores, because that's not world level competition. But Parker has this knack of sort of grinding his way through fights, getting a decision, and then after the fact sort of talking about, well, there was this, that, and the other that sort of influenced my performance, be it my elbows or preparations in camp and injury. But it sort of, fans have been left wanting in recent years. And the same person that I was talking about sort of said, well, you know, what's special about him? You know, I'm finding it really hard to care about his fights anymore. And I can totally understand that, because even, I think, with each passing fight, there seems to be, in New Zealand at least, like less coverage, less interest, and I think part of that is out of sight, out of mind with Parker fighting overseas for the most part. But also, if you're not putting in performances where you can turn heads, you're not turning the heads to keep people sort of focused on you and sort of, you know, going, this guy's going somewhere, he's going to contend for a heavyweight title. And Parker is saying, and you can see here on screen, his career is on the line. And he's been saying this since the first fight to Derek Chisora, in which he won that, but it was a very close fight. There was a little bit of controversy with that. Some people thought Derek Chisora did enough to win, and he was the one that dropped Joseph Parker early in that fight. And Parker had chances later in the fight to really put it on Chisora when he had him hurt a couple of times. And there was one notable time, I think it was in the 10th or 11th round, where he had Chisora on the ropes. He had him hurt and buzzed and just stood back and let Chisora off the hook. And I think many people were like, what is going on here? But he says the first fight wasn't the longest camp together with Andy, and Andy being Andy Lee. We were just getting to know each other and getting ready for the fight. A longer camp is more beneficial as I'm understanding more what Andy is trying to teach me. We've worked so hard every day, and I think that's really going to show on the night. Andy and I have been working on a lot of things in camp, and the goal is to go in there and look better and win, but win well. I can say that I'm going to be more dominant, more aggressive, and that sort of stuff, but I just want to go out there and fight, and I will let my actions do the talking for me. I want the best Derek Chisora. I got a hard pressure fighter in the first fight with Derek, and I think that he'll be looking to make little adjustments to improve, so I'm looking forward to what he's going to bring. As long as I do what I can do, it's not going to go the distance, but I know he feels the same way. There's no issues for me in the build-up with a great camp and injury-free. I like and respect Derek, but this is not the time to be friends before the fight. I need to take care of business because my career is on the line. He's achieved a lot and I respect him, but that can wait until after the fight. I think the result was right. I did enough to win. It wasn't the most dominant or best performance. It was a close fight, but I believe I won. And it's good to be able to run it back and show the improvements I've made with Andy. It's the first rematch of my career, so I am excited for that. And I just want to go out and fight hard, beat him up, and put on a better performance and win in better fashion. So a couple of interesting things to sort of come out of that. I mean, I guess I would say this is in the same vein in recent years where Joseph Parker has promised to be better, do better, show his improvements in the ring, and largely he hasn't delivered before. He hasn't delivered dominant performances. And I guess with the new trainer, there is some optimism that more time with Andy Lee, sort of bedding in, their relationship and sort of what they're doing in camp, a longer camp this time. It's not just, 5 or 6 weeks, whatever it was for the first fight. So I guess we will see more of Andy Lee's sort of flavor with Joseph Parker for the second fight. But I think with a lot of fighters, especially when they're really established into their pro careers, even with the change of trainer, you sort of see in certain parts of fights, they revert to type. And I would expect the same for Joseph Parker. I think we saw an example earlier this year of that, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder said he'd completely reinvented himself, and we saw a jab and him jabbing to the body against Tyson Fury and giving us different looks for 1 round, 1.5 rounds tops. So we may see something with Joseph Parker here similar, that he's looking to do more of what Andy Lee wants him to do, but ultimately I think what we will see is Joseph Parker revert to type at some point, which will involve circling, just sort of, wafting out a jab there, jab, jab, right hand. But I think one of the things that people have been looking for Joseph Parker is aggression, killer instinct. They want to see him being more aggressive. And in an interview on Television New Zealand's One News, which is the biggest terrestrial channel in New Zealand, and this came out before this sort of press release was issued, he spoke about, I need to start fast, I need to go out there and be myself, let my hands go. And he said he didn't know why he wasn't letting his hands go in that first fight. And I think that kind of sums up a lot of Joseph Parker's, recent performances at world level. He's got a lot of promise, a lot of talent, but he just can't seem to put together that performance where you go, wow, that was a great performance. Someone was asking me, must have been a couple of months ago now, what are the sort of main highlights, do you think, of Joseph Parker's career at the world level? And yeah, I was sort of struck. I mean, if you think about those performances against like Andy Ruiz Jr., Carlos Takam, Dillian White, Anthony Joshua, Derek Chisora, it's not a whole lot of highlights in there. It's not a whole lot of Parker sort of having brilliant moments and dominating. As I said at the start, he's one of these sorts of guys that has ground his way through fights to decisions. And there's not a huge highlights package associated with Joseph Parker at the top level. But that's because it's tough, competitive. Yeah, I get it. I know that there's going to be some Parker fans rolling in, not going to be happy and defending Parker to the hilt. But when you have Joseph Parker himself saying that he's been disappointed with his performances in recent years, that his career is on the line here, you can't just discount, sort of some of these performances where he's underwhelmed. And I think that's a large part of it. He's got some of the faster hands in the division. He does have a good skill set broadly, although, not very good on the inside. I know some people like to think Joseph Parker can bang on the inside, but we've really seen no proof of that. And against Derek Chisora was all over him like white on rice in that first fight. But it'll be interesting to see these developments, these things that Lee and Parker have been working on, because obviously Joseph Parker is due a good performance. And if he is saying his career is on the line for this fight, that he needs to look good, well, he's really building up expectations as well, because I'm fully expecting that this probably goes to decision again, just because that is the tenor, the general sort of vibe of Joseph Parker fights. I mean, his power at world level is not great. He hasn't been able to knock guys out. When was the last big-time knockout of anyone of note in Joseph Parker's career? Oh, wait. And I'm not talking about the guys like Alexander Demetrenko and Alexander Flores. I'm expecting this will most likely go to decision, but if it is stopped late, it's probably because Chisora has been basically gassed out. And there's been evidence of him gassing in fights more recently, the past couple of years. That last Parker fight, the Usyk fight as well. He's got 6 or 7 good rounds in him, and then he starts to fade. That has been a pattern. And actually, there was a pretty well-known English prospect who was on a Twitter space last week saying that he had been in and around the Chisora camp for this build-up, and that he actually thought that Derek Chisora didn't look quite as in good a shape as he has recently. And obviously he has left David Haye, who had whipped him into tremendous shape for different fights when he was involved in the Haye setup, and now he's gone back to Dave Caldwell. But so Joseph Parker saying he needs to take care of business, career on the line, all this. Is it just going to be more hot air again? Are we going to hear all this ahead of the fight and then have some excuses afterwards? And I do have questions about his elbows, because he's had both of them operated on multiple times now during his career. And after that first fight with Chisora, that was thrown out there by David Higgins as one of the reasons that wasn't able to pounce on Chisora when he had opportunities, that the elbows, they were giving him some jip. And after the fight, apparently had some procedures to clean it up. So I think we need to just keep expectations in check, because we've been here, done that before with Parker and his statements. He's got to show us. Can't just say what he's going to do. He's got to actually do it. Can he? That's the question. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.